You know, everyone's got an opinion about birth. They're like assholes, right? But we don't necessarily want to look at everyone's opinion.
I wasn't some girl in the desert with some witch doctor trying to cut out my clitoris. Like, I was in a first world country in a top grade hospital having a baby.
I was thinking, is this what death feels like?
I felt lied to, I felt manipulated, and I felt betrayed.
It's like nobody ever has a good experience. Ever, apparently.
I think the mummy wars are this factioning between natural birthers and the caesarean birthers.
This whole story can be seen as the latest chapter in a 400-year turf battle between midwives and doctors.
These very different paradigms are actually at the heart of what is going wrong in maternity care in Australia.
We are 39 weeks tomorrow. Getting a little bit nervous now, I suppose.
27-year-old Kayla is due to give birth any day now.
When I found out that I was pregnant, I was like, okay, I'm going to book in a caesarean. I want to be completely knocked out. I don't want to feel a thing.
But after attending a birth education course called She Births, Kayla and husband Richard had a change of heart about caesareans.
It's a last option now, instead of the first option. Yeah. Even the way we feel about medical intervention or even the gas, like we're basically against all of that now. Like,
not
not all of it, but we feel that you can handle it now.
Yeah.
These are the things that women have been using since the beginning of time, these natural, innate tendencies we have to manage birth.
Nadine Richardson is the founder of She Births. She's at the forefront of a movement to change the way we think about birth.
Most of us have got to like our 30s or 40s and we're having our babies and we've not heard anything positive. It's the wave of doubt where you start to wonder if you can do it, and that's really normal.
After undertaking the She Births course, I do have a bit more of an idea of what I want.
I really want this natural birth. It means a lot to me, and if I didn't get it, yeah, I think I'd be pretty upset afterwards.
I'm keen to catch the baby.
Catch it.
If that's what it's called.
Friends of ours the other day actually had a 19-hour labour and then an emergency C-section just on Wednesday this week, so I don't know.
That gives me that doubt, you know, before she was speaking about you have that little bit of doubt, maybe I can't do it, and I think that's where they would have just
but
opted
I think
to
that came down to at least she had a good crack at it for 19 hours.
Yeah, I want to be able to be fully aware and fully present and love that moment.
Aoife is 35 and expecting her first baby sometime in the next week.
Tom, I know he's trying to be supportive, but if a man is like going, you'd be grand, your body's made for it, you know, millions of women have done that. Like, I just want to punch you sometimes. Like, I was like...
Yeah, so a woman said it and everything's okay.
So it's really critical that we prepare for all birth scenarios.
If it's a big baby and it tears, then...
It's a small price to pay.
It's a small price to pay for what I really want and what would be good for that baby for their whole life.
The debate over the best way to give birth has never been more polarised. On one side of the divide are those promoting the virtues of so-called natural or normal birth.
If you can have a good vaginal birth, it's going to be so much better than the caesarean section.
At the other end are those who warn that vaginal birth carries risks, especially as women are increasingly becoming mothers later in life.
The natural way to do things is for women to fall pregnant by the age of 19 or 20 and have their first baby shortly thereafter. That is no longer the case in our world.
These are the birth wars.
And that's what broadens that pelvic outlet.
A scientific study of Nadine's She Births course found that participants have significantly lower rates of medical intervention. But for the majority of women giving birth in Australia today, medical intervention is the norm. That might mean using drugs to induce or speed up labour, or epidurals to block the pain, an option that more than half of women go for. For some, the prevalence of these interventions is a major cause for concern.
One of the problems with intervention is what we call the cascade of intervention. So, for example, you might induce a woman and that may lead to more painful contractions, so she has an epidural. Now it's hard for her to push. Now she ends up with a forceps or a vacuum or perhaps a caesarean section.
In 2010, the New South Wales government put itself at the centre of the birth wars when it introduced Towards Normal Birth, a policy that Professor Hannah Dahlen helped develop.
The caesarean section rate had reached about 28% and we were all really horrified. Where were we going and where would it stop?
The New South Wales health policy aimed to reduce the caesarean section rate to 20% by 2015. While the targets haven't been met, the policy remains in effect.
The World Health Organization has said around 10 to 15% caesarean section rate is the ideal level. Beyond that, we see no advantage and we start to see harm to mothers and babies.
In came the doctor, had a quick scan of my belly and looked at me and goes, so we'll go to surgery this afternoon or in the morning. And I just bawled.
Kate is a mum of 3. After her first baby was delivered by caesarean, she wanted to avoid medical intervention next time round.
I felt like I'd really missed out on something. That feeling and that sense of accomplishment.
But when Kate went into labour with her second baby, things didn't go to plan. She was given drugs to speed up contractions and then an epidural.
Nothing's presented to you in a way where you have a choice. Her heart rate was dropping and so I consented to a C-section. There was no emergency. The doctors have a God complex and they just want to be the puppeteer.
In her third pregnancy, Kate was determined to have a vaginal delivery. But with scarring from 2 previous caesareans, her uterus ruptured during labour and she was rushed in for an emergency C-section.
C-sections can be life-saving. I've had one that was life-saving. But I feel like we should be saving those places for the ones that are needed and the ones that are going to save lives.
But not everyone agrees we should be trying to reduce caesareans.
That policy towards normal birth needs revision, and quite urgently.
Professor Peter Dietz is a urogynaecologist specialising in pelvic floor damage.
Attempts at avoiding caesarean sections will inevitably increase the likelihood of major trauma to women in childbirth.
Dietz believes that institutional pressure to avoid caesareans has meant more babies are delivered with forceps. They're like a hospital version of barbecue tongs used to pull out babies.
Well done. And again.
Forceps rates have risen very substantially and in a historically unprecedented way. And of course it has been accelerated and supported by Towards Normal Birth.
Across New South Wales, the use of forceps increased from 3.1 to 4.7% between 2005 and 2016. But at some major hospitals, it's gone even higher, quadrupling to over 10%.
That comes at a cost. If somebody has her baby with a normal delivery, the likelihood of a major pelvic floor muscle tear is about 10%. If she has that baby by forceps, it's over 40%. Major irreversible damage that nobody at this point in time can fix.
We've painted this picture that if we do all the right things, we can have a natural birth, and that is your rite of passage as a woman.
Amy Dawes was 33 when she had her first baby at a public hospital in Sydney.
I pushed and she wasn't coming into the world, and we were told that she would probably come via caesarean or high forceps. I knew all the risks involved with a caesarean section, but I knew nothing about what could happen to my body with forceps.
But forceps were just what the doctors recommended. And while her daughter was born happy and healthy, the birth took its toll on Amy.
I was told at the time that I'd sustained a 3rd-degree tear, but they were also having trouble stemming the bleeding. I was thinking, is this what death feels like?
It wasn't until months later that Amy learned just how damaged her body really was.
I started seeing a pelvic health physiotherapist. She likened my injuries to that of being in a car crash. I'm now 37. I feel in some ways like I'm 80 because I was suffering from fecal incontinence. I need to carry wet wipes, not just for my baby.
While recovering from her injuries, Amy co-founded the Australasian Birth Trauma Association, along with Professor Dietz.
I would strongly advise my colleagues to cease doing forceps in first-time mums that are over the age of 30. It's a seriously bad idea.
I am in total agreement. Forceps, I think, should be faded out. But the answer isn't to increase cesarean section. The answer is to expand continuity of midwifery care.
The Towards Normal Birth policy set a target for 35% of women in New South Wales to give birth in midwife-led services.
Midwifery care leads to less intervention, fewer forceps, fewer vacuums, less pain relief needed, and lower cost. So what is so difficult to get about this?
A major review of global research found that women who have babies through midwife-led services are more likely to give birth without medical intervention. They're also more likely to be satisfied with their care. But the review also found that midwife-led care does not lower your chances of needing a caesarean or of tearing during labour.
That's you, good girl. The midwives, you know, they talked about it as being such a wonderful, serene, joyful experience. I just thought that's what I'd have. I wasn't educated on what could go wrong.
Danielle is one of the 8% of women in New South Wales to have a midwife-led birth. Danielle gave birth in a pool without medical intervention through a standalone midwifery service in Sydney.
I gave birth to my daughter and they brought her out and put her up on my chest, which still is like the best moment of that whole experience. What I didn't know at the time was I had quite a lot of blood loss.
After 2 hours, Danielle was transferred to the nearest hospital, about 15 kilometres away, where she was treated for external and internal tearing.
I feel like the midwives waited too long to transfer me. I think they should have realised sooner that it was above their capability.
Doctors have since told Danielle that a quicker treatment may have improved her outcomes. A year later, she's still having symptoms from the tearing.
It's still painful to do yoga, painful if I stand up for too long. It's like a throbbing, or when I walk, and obviously intercourse is painful. I'd spoken to my midwife 3 months afterwards when I was having the issues, and she said something to me along the lines of, you know, oh, that's just the damage that comes with pregnancy. It shouldn't be normal and it shouldn't be downplayed.
For a whole number of complications of pregnancy and potential interventions, informed consent can only be obtained by doctors, which means that a midwifery-only clinic is, from my point of view, a legal impossibility.
Obstetricians see more midwifery care as a threat to their own incomes and their own practice.
Oh, yes.
27-year-old Kayla has just gone into labour.
The pain is not favourable, but manageable at the moment. As Richard has been referencing from the book, as long as I feel comfortable and safe, then I'm staying here. There's this pressure down there.
Ready?
Yep.
Feel like it's time?
Yep. Oh my god. The more chilled you are, the better I am. Oh shit. Richard proposed to me at ACDC in the mosh pit during You Shook Me All Night Long. Ow! Ow!
Meanwhile, at a hospital on the other side of Sydney, fellow SheBirths graduate Aoife has just given birth to her son.
Little baby burrito. It's wonderful. I love him so much. You just can't imagine how much you're going to love something like this. His heart started decelerating quite a bit, so the obstetrician said we can get him out with forceps. And I was like, would cesarean be safer? And she's like, no, we can do it with forceps, it'll be fine. I did tear, but I knew that was the right path to take. I'm so glad that I had done the SheBirths,
There is no trophy that you get with a natural birth. Like, the trophy is the baby from any birth, but you can make every birth beautiful.
Go in? Yeah.
Cat out.
Welcome home, boy. It was honestly fucked up.
Yeah.
Sorry, my hands are cold.
There is no chance in hell that I would ever go through this experience again without any kind of pain relief. Some women can do it. Hats off to them.
Just pushed a little too much and teared.
Second degree tearing, but I don't think I could do a cesarean. I suppose it would just depend, but yeah, he was worth it.
In a statement to the feed, a spokesperson for New South Wales Health said, "The Towards Normal Birth policy has contributed to a slowing in the rate of rise of caesarean sections."
The reality is the caesarean section rate has not reduced. The caesarean section rate now is higher than ever.
Towards Normal Birth has comprehensively failed.
There were some fairly vocal, may I say, obstetricians who were very determined for it not to succeed.
We're seeing these two camps really not working together.
Towards Normal Birth is now under review. The feed invited New South Wales Health to respond to claims that the policy has increased the use of forceps, leading to more birth trauma. We didn't receive a response.
We're very frightened, I think, increasingly of birth, and we're passing that fear on to women.
I don't think women need to be given all the risks and complications.
We empower women with knowledge. How can you make a decision without knowing the full risks of both modes of delivery?
That looks pretty bad. We need to talk to people about the complications that they may be facing. If you want to put it like that, we have to frighten people.
Information must be based on the highest level evidence, not the bits you handpicked because it suited your agenda.
I'd love to see an unbiased approach to childbirth, to treat each woman as an individual, not one size fits all.